Hi, and welcome to my unboxing and review of the Warbringer Nemesis Titan, a new 28mm scale Titan from Forgeworld, which was released today. It's the 7th of December. So this is a completely new class of Titan that sits between the Reaver and the Warlord in size. Although this is a new class of Titan, the names are a throwback to the original Adeptus Titanicus games from the 80s, which had a number of named Titans, including the Warbringer and Nemesis variants. Now, these, although all based on the Warlord chassis, were quite different, with different speeds, different number of void shields, and different weapon loadouts, including the number of weapons, ranging from just two arm weapons and one carapace weapon, or the standard Warlord layout that we see today of two arm weapons and two carapace weapons. So this is also taking an idea from there of having the two arm weapons and a single carapace weapon. It also has a pair of air defence turrets mounted on the carapace and three Mauler bolt guns for point defence. As with the Warlord and Reaver, this Titan is purchased as a number of separate items, the largest being the body and legs, which are in the bottom cardboard box there. We also have then the main carapace weapon in this largest of the white boxes, two arm weapons and the head. Now, the arm weapons are the same weapons as you get for the Reaver, although they have been redesigned and re-released today, the most significant of which is the volcano cannon, which has been completely redesigned, but all of the weapons have had at least a small amount of rework done on them, but I'll discuss that as we get onto the reviewing the weapons themselves. At the moment, although the Titan is purchased separately, the only area where you have any options are the arm weapons, where there were four available, which is the melter, gatling blaster, laser blaster and volcano cannon, same as we see on the Reaver. The Reaver Power Fist is not available for this Titan, but that does make sense considering its role as more of a fire support Titan, not something you want to be getting close up with anyway. Also, I think the upper arm of the Power Fist is very much geared towards fitting the Reaver, so redesigning that would be more work, so I can see why Forgeworld haven't done that. At the moment, although you do purchase the head and the carapace weapon separately, there aren't any options there. The only carapace weapon available is the quake cannon, and the head is the Mars Alpha pattern, but hopefully we'll see some variants in the future. So, although the components of this Titan are sold separately and there are some options, the different options are all at the same price, so no matter which loadout you go for, you're looking at the same total price of £980, which puts it, as would be expected, between the Reaver and the Warlord, and making it the third most expensive kit that Forgeworld have released, behind the Warlord Titan and the Tau Manta. And I'll discuss the individual pricing of each part when I review those individually. So that's the introduction out of the way, so now let's have a look through the boxes and see what you get. I am going to be splitting this video into two, so this first half is going to include the weapons and the head for the Titan, and then I will do a separate video for the body, just because there's so much to go through that it's just going to be ridiculous. So the rest of the video will be out later this weekend, but for now let's have a look at the weapons and the head. Okay, so now let's move on to what I'm sure you're all most interested in, the actual unboxing and review. So start with the gatling blaster. So one of these is going to set you back £65. I think it's a slight increase on the Reaver version, but not by very much. And that's it. Now got the full colour instructions. So yeah, much like the original. I think the big difference is this is now two parts. As the original, that was just a big block of resin. So that's now it makes it a little bit lighter, which is good. Also, the position of the couplings for the cables have changed. They're now central, whereas on the original Reaver version you'd build them for one side or the other. Right, and that's it for the Reaver. You're still building them on either side. So let's have a look at the bits. So just one bag of bits for this one. So let's have a look at them. Get them out and have a look at them. Okay, so these are the various bits that make up the Gatling blaster. Not many of them. It's the two halves of the main body of the gun there, and as I mentioned, they have changed the position of the power coupling on this new version. This is what holds the barrels. Obviously you've got the 6 barrels there, and this small piece, got this for the end of the barrels and the 2 power couplings for the Reaver. As mentioned, I think this is largely identical to the original version, which I have here. So actually there's some slight differences to the detail around the back there, see, and yeah, I think it's pretty much the same size. Actually slightly narrower, I think, but not much in it. And I think that detail on the side there is slightly deeper. But yeah, pretty much, other than the position of these, it's largely the same. And it's the barrels in the original version. Again, I don't think anything at all has changed with those, so this is probably not a very significant change to the weapon. So on to the next one. Right, so on to the second weapon. This is the volcano cannon. So this has had a complete redesign based on the existing Reaver version. So let's get it out and have a look. Okay, so again the usual colour instruction sheet. Not too many pieces there. I don't have one of the original ones to compare with, but obviously having seen it, it is a complete redesign, much more similar to the volcano cannon you get on the Warlord Titan, and I think obviously the same as the one on the Adeptus Titanicus Reaver, or the new Adeptus Titanicus Reaver that's coming out in the new year. Again, the central power couplings and adapters for the Reaver. So let's have a look at the bits. Right, so these are the components of the volcano cannon. Obviously you've got the barrel there, main body of the gun, 2 sides of the armour plate, just a few pipes and other details. As mentioned, this is completely different to the original Reaver version. This is a lot like the Warlord version, although it does only have one of these underneath, whereas the Warlord Titan has 2. Got some nicely detailed armour panels there. That's one thing on the weapons. I don't have the other 2 that have been re-released, but I have noticed them that again they've got a lot more of this detail on the armour panels, whereas the original versions were just smooth. And I don't think there's much more to say about that. It's, yeah, so far smaller than the Warlord version, which isn't surprising really. And this is just a single block, unlike the Gatling blaster, which was split, but this is a slightly smaller element. Right, so we'll move on to the final weapon, or the final of the main weapons, the quake cannon. Right, so this is the big one. This is the quake cannon for the carapace of the Warbringer Titan. This is a pretty hefty box, and I think I saw from the Forgeworld website this has got over 100 parts, so it's a fairly substantial weapon. Just have a look at that. Okay, obviously full colours instructions, multiple pages. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces there, considering this is just one weapon. Now one thing that's quite interesting, I see that these ammo hoppers are supplied with the weapon, whereas on the Forgeworld website it looks like those are part of the body, which I thought was a bit strange, because if they're planning on changing the weapons in the future, then those ammo hoppers would need to be replaced, or they'd just be kind of redundant. So the fact that they're including this kit is definitely good. So it means when they release further weapons to go on top of the Warbringer, they can replace those with something more interesting, plasma cells or whatever, depending on the weapons they release. And as mentioned, there are a lot of pieces in this kit. You've even got a few intact shells there, full loading mechanism, the gun itself, general sort of full colour instructions as you get these days on Forgeworld, rather than a photocopied sheet of the finished model like you would get a few years ago. And there's a few shells that actually go in the barrel bit there, which you can leave some of them out if you want to make it look like it's fired some. So yeah, this is a pretty big kit considering it's just a weapon. So let's have a look at the components. Okay, so you've got quite a few bags of components there, as well as a few large separate bits. So let's just move this out of the way and have a look at the components. Okay, so first up is this. This is obviously the base of the cannon. It's obviously a nicely detailed part, tread plate, some sort of access panels there, a lot of details around there that I'm not quite sure what they're meant to be, but details anyway. And turn it over, so this will just plug into the top of the carapace, probably stay by gravity, but there's enough space there you could easily magnetize it or put a pin in if you wanted to make it a bit more stable. Next on bag piece is this, which is obviously the main body of the gun. A tiny little mould line there, but barely noticeable, and that's right on the bottom, so you can't really see that anyway. Nicely detailed part. I should probably stop saying nicely detailed part, as that's going to go for, I think, the whole kit. But again, it's a nice big solid lump of resin. Yeah, so that's nice. Let's move on to some of the individual bags. Okay, so this is the bag with the largest pieces in. Yeah, this has got sort of the ammo hoppers, the barrel, so let's take those out and have a look. Okay, so this is the first bag of bits for the Quake cannon. I've obviously got the barrel there. Looks fairly plain, but I think there's some detail that goes onto that. We've got this sort of 6-shooter style ammo holder there where the shells will go. There are some shells supplied in one of the other bags, so you can fit those or leave it empty. Obviously that's not completely hollow, so if you want to leave one empty, you're going to have to paint it black. I'm not sure quite how realistic that would look. I don't think you could drill it out probably without breaking it, so I guess that's a choice you'll have to make. Got the barrel or the gun supports here, two sort of identical sides, front shielding for the gun. There's this bit which apparently is a ballistic cogitator, which goes underneath the barrel. It looks more like something for lighting a flamer, but I think this is basically just a throwback to the original, what was the macro cannon in the original Adeptus Titanicus game, had something like this underneath the barrel, which they've retained. But yeah, so yeah, it's got a lens on the end there, so it's obviously, yeah, it's meant to be some sort of targeting device. Now these are part of the ammo hoppers. They go on that are part of the loading mechanism. There's a fully detailed sort of loading mechanism for the gun that takes the shells from the hopper, moves them around and loads them into this. That looks pretty nice. These are the hoppers themselves. You can see a shell there coming out, and I think there's a few more go on the side there This goes on the back of the Titan, so you've got a fairly detailed system there for the ammo loading. Always nice to see those sort of touches that make it look like a real machine. Okay, so on to the next bag. Okay, so we've got a real selection of pieces here. We've just got two parts here of the sort of gun mount mechanism. These two parts are part of the sort of 6-shooter mechanism that goes on the back of the gun. That I think this helps, swivels round and loads the shells. We've got quite a few parts for the ammo hopper mechanism. So you can see these parts here that go underneath the hoppers, where you can see the shells coming out, and you get a couple of complete shells as well there that can be placed, I think, in there to show the loading mechanism working. Now, this is nice. These are for the ammo hoppers, and these are pre-drilled holes for magnets, so they've clearly planned ahead so that you can, if you replace the top weapon, you can replace the ammo hoppers and they'll be ready magnetized for that, which is nice. It means Forgeworld release additional weapons in the future, you can just add them to your existing Titan, which I guess is also good for Forgeworld because they can then sell us more weapons. These are parts of the loading arm mechanism for the ammo hoppers, and then we've just got a few cables here that go under the guns, or under the gun, sorry. So yeah, there's still another bag to go. It's just a huge detailed kit. It's obviously a pretty significant part of the model. I'm looking forward to putting this one together. Okay, so now on to the final bag, which is the smallest components. Again, there's a lot in there, lots of nice little details. I mean, this kit, it's a gun, it's obviously on its own far bigger than a lot of kits released by Forgeworld. Most of the, it's bigger than a lot of their tank kits. So, okay, we've got some sort of handrails there that go on the base of the gun. Some parts for shells here. This is the tips and the rears. These will go on the sort of the 6-shooter bit. So just to fill that up, make it look like it's fully loaded. Which, as I said, you can leave those off, but I'm not sure how realistic that would look. There's a couple of small details there. Not even sure where those go. I would assume the loading mechanism, as there's a pair of them. These are part of the loading mechanism. These are the parts that actually grip the shells. A few extra details that just go on to various parts of the weapon there. Again, these are part of the loading mechanism. As I say, this gun is fantastic. It is just, there's so much going on with it. But I am looking forward to them hopefully releasing some more. I think maybe some sort of giant plasma weapon. I guess a Sun Fury stuck on top would be very nice. So yeah, that is the Quake cannon, the ridiculously long range and powerful gun for the Warbringer. So this one was going to set you back £100. I mean, you could almost buy it and just use it as stick it on a base, use it as some sort of terrain feature if you really wanted to. But definitely looks like a nice build there. I'm very, very pleased with that one. Okay, now to the final part of this review of the Warbringer Titan. This is the head. One of these will set you back £60. Like the Warlord version, it includes the sort of shields that go on the front of the Titan. So if they do replacement heads, they will also presumably be doing different shield variations, which is nice. Try and get this open. Okay, I've actually boxed this one rather than being in a bag. So again, your full colour instructions. got your crew there, and also there's an option for the empty throne if you don't want to put the crew in there. So the Moderati models are slightly different on this one, and with separate arms. I think on the Warlord they were pretty much identical. Again, a separate princeps there. You don't get a standing princeps like you do with the Warlord. And that's nice. The head, like some of the other parts in this kit, has pre-drilled holes for magnets there, so you can magnetize that. It suggests that's if you want to take it off so you can view the crew, but it does also mean that if they release alternative heads in the future, you can just be able to swap those out. I think the head is probably my least favourite part of this Titan, so hopefully they'll do a better version in the future, though it has grown on me slightly now seeing it in the flesh. So let's have a look at the parts. Okay, so got a box of parts here, nothing too unexpected. So that's the two halves of the main head there. The eyepieces there, you could put, looks like it's designed, you could put some transparent plastic across there if you wanted, or just leave them open. Yeah, definitely quite a burly looking thing. Sturdy front piece. I think the Titan is described as being very heavily armoured on the front, so the head does match with that. So here we've got the top of the head, again nicely detailed, and you've got the interior detail there, large screen, so this can all be painted up very nicely. You'll probably hardly ever see it, but you'll know it's there. This is the back of the head, doorway there, and as mentioned it does have the holes for magnets. The instructions do list which size magnets to buy. So for the head there, these are 6x2mm magnets, so it's 4 of those, and a 4 for obviously the piece it attaches to, and the cables also can be magnetized, and they're 4x2mm. I think 6x2 and 4x2 seem to be the main magnets used on this Titan, so you can stock up on those. Right, so this is the front of the head, or internal front of the head. You've got the eyes there, and then details inside. This looks very similar to the Warlord interior. I think probably with the CAD design they use these days, they do can sort of just copy and paste a lot of it. There's a few differences there, but not that many. So these are the chairs for the Moderati, and some underside detail for the exterior of the head. This is the sort of piece I think you want to be putting together after you've painted it, or at least to some degree. I did put my Warlord head completely together, and then it's kind of difficult to get in to paint some of the details, but there is the thought that if you can't see them, then if you can't paint them, you probably won't be able to see them. So it's the empty Princeps chair if you want to have your Titan uncrewed. Again, that looks almost identical to the Warlord version. I think this is another piece towards the back of the head. Some holes there. I think that's not actually part of the model, that's just a shim piece that you'll cut out. Got the 2 shields there, a lot smaller than the Warlord version, and I see they are actually a left and right side. The Warlord ones did come on a ball joint, so you could put one either side, and they're fairly thick actually. But again, that's probably the armour. The pipes there that go around the side of the head. Again, nicely detailed, and I think these, you've got holes there for the for the magnets. So that's definitely something that Forgeworld are doing a lot more, is pre-magnetite or pre-drilling holes. I say drilling, obviously just creating holes for the magnets when they make the kit, so they obviously know how people are using them. Saves us a bit of time. Right, here we've got the two Moderati. So these are both slightly different, quite different designs to the Warlord version. Well, obviously they share some similarities, but they're not the same model. They are a new version, and they have separate arms which come here. A few of them have come off of this supporting piece, but you've got separate arms for the Moderati and the Princeps there. And here we've got the Princeps himself. Again, like all the Titan models, this is a sort of unique Princeps. All the heads so far have come with a different Princeps on them. This one, I see actually one of the handles there has snapped off, but it is still there in the box, so hopefully I'll be able to glue that back on. I think one of the hands actually goes on that, so that should make it easier to reattach. So not the end of the world. So yeah, nice. But I don't think the crew look quite as detailed as the Warlord crew. But again, they're still very nice models. I think so far I've really enjoyed painting the Warlord Titan crew. It's been one of my favourite parts of it. Okay, so that's the end of the first part of this unboxing and review. In my next video, which will hopefully be out later this weekend, I will go through the body and legs of the Warbringer Titan, which is obviously going to be the big review, which is why I've split it into two, because there's a lot of resin to go through. So why not subscribe? You can hopefully then join me for that and see what you get in the body kit. Thanks.